Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the seventh of the Auditor General candidates. We are interviewing candidates in the 2020 primary and general election in my social science classes at Central High School and some other schools around the city. And I want to announce before we get started, the Vote That John House Party. We are going to be registering voters and helping them get their mail-in ballots this Saturday, 5 to 8, with DJ Jazzy Jeff spinning discs and LGP Qua freestyling and DJ Diamond Cuts and others. So please join us 5 to 8. It'll be fun. And this morning, we have Republican candidate for Auditor General Timothy DeFoor, interviewed by my students at Central High School. So I am going to jump back over to the Google Meet here and then turn it over to students. As soon as I click off of here. And there we are. Good morning, Mr. DeFoor.
Good morning, Mr. Quinn. How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine. Fine, waking up, getting the technical difficulties out of the way.
They always happen, and I want to, thank you for putting this together, especially for the students at the legendary Central High School in Philadelphia. I've been hearing about Central High School way back when I was in high school, but I'm not going to age myself. But
Okay.
I think I'm a little older than your students. But I've been hearing about Central High School for a while, and this is quite the honor. So
Well, I'm glad you could join us this morning. I'm going to turn it right over to Sarah with the first question.
Hey, Sarah, how are you?
I'm
How are you,
good.
Sarah? Good.
I'm doing great.
Fantastic. It's good to have you. Good to speak to you this morning.
Thank you. Same to you. For the first question, could you please tell us a little of your background, education, and experience?
Well, Sarah, as you currently know, I'm currently the Dauphin County Controller. I'm in my second term. I just began my second term in January, and my responsibilities are as the Chief Fiscal Officer for Dauphin County. My office is responsible for keeping the county's fiscal records, paying the county's bills, performing financial, regulatory, and quality management audits of all county departments. Basically, wherever county funds are used, I'm responsible for making sure that they are used legally and in the way in which that they were intended. To include the courts, district justices, and I'm also the Secretary and Chief Administrator for the Dauphin County Retirement Board. And there I work with the investment managers and the investment consultant to make sure that our retirees and our current county employees' retirement funds are invested properly. As far as my education, well, I have an associate's degree from Harrisburg Area Community College in Paralegal Studies. And I have a bachelor's degree, oddly enough, in social sciences with a minor in history from the University of Pittsburgh, and a Master of Science degree in project management from Harrisburg University of Science and Technology. And as far as my background, I am a former special investigator with the Pennsylvania Office of Inspector General. And my duties and responsibilities there were to investigate fraud, waste, and abuse within state government. And after I left the Inspector General's office, I then went to work for the Attorney General's office, where my responsibilities were to investigate healthcare fraud, Medicaid, Medicare fraud, and also prescription drug diversion. And I worked with different law enforcement agencies such as the DEA and FBI, combating prescription drug abuse and prescription drug diversion. After that, after I retired from the Attorney General's office, I then went to work for the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center Health Plan. And part of my responsibilities there were to help build their fraud and abuse department, again, to investigate allegations of fraud, waste, and abuse with regards to the healthcare programs established by the state and by the federal government. And after that, I then went to work for various federal contractors and federal agencies, being a quality manager, making sure that the company were following their their standards and their guidance as set forth by the federal government. So to make sure that the company that I work for followed the rules and the regulations in which their job intended them to do.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. DeFoor. My name is Natasha, and my question for you
How are you?
is good. How are you?
Oh, great, thank you.
So my question for you is, can you please describe the responsibilities and powers of the Auditor General, and why are you running to be Auditor General?
Yes. Well, first let me describe what the powers of the Auditor General, what those powers are. Well, my current position as Dauphin County Controller and the Auditor General, we have some similar responsibilities, and which are, both of us are the fiscal watchdogs for our prospective jurisdictions. Of course, the Auditor General has a little broader jurisdiction because they're dealing with the entire Commonwealth. As far as with me, I'm dealing only with Dauphin County. And we are charged with making government accountable for taxpayers' dollars, making sure that they're being spent in the appropriate manner, the way that they were intended, by auditing and producing financial reports. Now, the Auditor General and the Controller, let's talk about the Auditor General first. What gives the Auditor General its powers is the PA Fiscal Code. What gives the County Controllers its powers is the PA County Code. So that tells us how to do our job and what guidelines we are to follow. However, just because it is not written necessarily in the PA Code that we should voice our opinion, doesn't mean we don't voice our opinion. Within any elected official, Auditor General, County Controller, we have a voice. And whenever we see any type of wrongdoing in government, whenever we see we can make a difference or influence others or help others, it is our responsibility as elected officials to raise our voice and to say, hey, I can help you with this, or this is something that we need to look at, even though legally it may not be within our jurisdiction and within our power. But we do have the power to raise our voice and to voice our opinion when the time comes. Was there a second part of the question? I'm sorry. Am I running?
The second part was, why are you running for Auditor General?
Why am I running? It's kind of an interesting story. I never intended to run for any type of political office, whether it be Dauphin County Controller or whether it be Auditor General. Sometimes you find politics, and sometimes politics finds you. Growing up, I had 5 siblings. There were 6 of us. My father worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. My mother worked at a nursing home as a nurse's aide at night. And I saw that at a very young age that they worked hard. And they paid their taxes, they did everything the right way. And that had an impact, even as a child, that had an impact on me. And it led me to the career that I chose. And to be perfectly honest, if asked, I really didn't know at the time why I chose those careers where I would investigate government fraud, waste, and abuse, and assure that your tax-paying dollars were spent in the manner in which they were intended. But finally, I do now, and it's a result of what I experienced as a child, seeing my parents work their rear end off to raise a family. And I want to make sure that not only their tax dollars were spent correctly, but your parents' tax dollars, your tax dollars, Mr. Quinn's tax dollars, that they're being spent in a way that they were intended and that they're not wasted. So, and that's how, and I spent my entire career doing that. I mean, as far as the job and the position of the Auditor General, that type of work, if you look at the skill set, I've been doing that my entire career. So that's why I'm running. It's a continuation of what I've been doing. And I'm going to age myself the past 25 plus years.
Thank you, Mr. DeFoor.
Thank you for asking the question. That was a good question.
Oh, Mr. DeFoor. My name is Jeffrey, and
Hey,
my
Jeffrey, how are
question
you?
is, what can you do to ensure that as a city and state we are ready to COVID-19 or any other illness that we are currently facing?
Well, that's a good question, and especially when you look around with regards to what's going on now, nobody was prepared for this, and going forward, we have to make sure that whatever resources are needed, and those resources, and it's the local governments that are going to know what resources are needed to make sure that they have the resources for, number one, for testing, and as far as the individuals who are caring for patients in the hospitals with the disease, make sure that they have the equipment that they need, but also for our caseworkers who check on the individuals who are stuck at home, stuck in nursing homes, to check on our children who are in foster care, and also who unfortunately have some circumstances in which they need some type of help and some type of intervention. So to make sure that those frontline individuals who are caring for others, to make sure that they have the resources that are being make sure they have the resources that they need in order for them to do their job, to keep them safe, but also to keep the other people that they're looking after, to keep them safe as well. To answer your question?
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for asking the question.
All right, so Victor, I think you have the next question. Are you ready?
Good morning, Mr. DeFoor.
Good morning, Victor. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Nice
How are you?
emoji, by the way.
Oh, my bad. So taxpayers pay $18 million a year for those Keystone exams that high school students have to take. What is your stance on standardized tests? Do you feel like these tests provide a racial disadvantage or advantage? And do you believe they are necessary?
Well, so I come from a family of educators, and one of the things that I've heard from them for years is that they do not want elected officials telling them what to do. They know what they need. They need resources to teach their students. But to answer your question, one of the things that they also said was there has to be a mechanism in which they can gauge how they're doing with regards to teaching the students, how the curriculum is put together, and how the school district is doing. So they need something to measure how well they are doing. And they said that the one way that they can do this is by performing standardized tests. So it seems as though, at least with them and other teachers that I've spoken to, that there is a consensus that they need standardized tests. However, to answer your other question with regards to, and I believe it was with regards to the funding of the school districts or funding of schools.
It was taxpayers pay $18 million a year for the Keystone exams.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, when students are taking these exams, things aren't necessarily fair and balanced. There are some school districts that are actually better off than other school districts. So what you have to do, you have to find a way to raise up the standards of the lower performing school districts. Now, one of the things that I think is really unfair is that if a school district is not performing very well, then funds have been taken away. In my opinion, if a school district isn't doing very well, obviously they need additional resources. So the entire funding structure with regards to school districts need to change. And I believe there is currently a lawsuit pending now where a group I believe out of Philadelphia is leading that charge, saying that the funding, the way that schools are funded, is not fair, and so that's something that does have to change. As far as it being racial, I mean, I definitely believe that it's the poor school districts that lose out, has always been the case, and but hopefully by creating a new formula, which is the way that schools are funded, hopefully that will alleviate that. And it's kind of interesting that where you have some city schools where the only source of income for the schools is through property tax and also through funding from the state, or some of the more affluent and richer school districts, they assess an additional individual tax for the schools as well. And when you apply that, I mean, of course, you're going to have better funding schools. So to answer your question, the entire formula in which we fund our current public schools just has to change. And hopefully this lawsuit will be part of that, and our legislators and our governor also have to be on board as well and understand where we are with regards to public schools.
Thank you very much, Mr. DeFoor.
Thank you for asking a question. Another good question.
Okay. Hi, I'm William.
Well, nice emoji. Is that Kylo Ren?
No, that's another Sith Lord.
Okay.
Darth Revan.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Darth Revan.
Yeah. Okay, so the question I'm asking is, how important is student safety in the communities they go to school in? How would you go about making communities safer for students who perhaps walk or bike to school?
Well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. In the community that I live, there was a kids from a certain neighborhood would walk to school using a trail through some woods. Those woods were recently tore down to put up a shopping center and to put up an hotel. One of the things that the school board and one of the things that the township commissioners realized was that, hey, these kids, they walk through this trail, and that way they avoid any highways or any busy roads to walk to school. So one of the things, and realizing that, one of the things that they did was they said, look, if you're going to put this hotel up, you have to provide a sidewalk for the students to use so they can get to school safely. So the school district and the business owners got together and put together a plan to where the students can utilize the sidewalk to get to school safely. So it was kind of like a government and business partnership that created that. And hope I answered your question.
Yep. Thank you for asking. Thank you for answering the question.
Good question. Thank you for asking.
Welcome.
Hi, Mr. DeFoor. My name's Journey.
Sorry.
My question. I said, hi, Mr. DeFoor. My name's Journey.
Hi, Journey. How are you?
I'm good. My question is, what will you do to provide more resources for students' mental health?
Well, one of the things that we have to do is it's kind of personal for me, dealing with some relatives who have some mental health issues. So I apologize for the pause. We have to find the resources to get the students help. That's the bottom line. whether it's a local government, whether it's a state government, whether it's a federal government, whether it's a partnership between schools and businesses, we have to get the kids who need help, we have to get them help. Have to work with the guidance counselors. We have to just observe what's going on with the child and what are their needs. Understand what their family structure is like. And it may seem like prying, but it's a lot of times kids are very prideful and they may not necessarily come to an adult who they may not trust asking for their help. But we as adults have to be vigilant and observe and understand what these kids are going through and provide whatever resources that they need in order for them to just basically get back to normal. So, and one of the things that I did recently, as a part of a group effort, we spoke to college students with regards to mental health, and we found a way for them to come to us with any questions or any concerns, not only with regards to them, but also with regards to any family members or friends that may have mental health issues. And then so once those students came to us, we found out ways to help those individuals that needed the help. So you have to constantly be engaged, because kids carry a lot of burden, and a lot of times they may not know how to handle it, and that's why you have such a high suicide rate amongst young individuals. And it's the adult's responsibility to find the resources and also to help those children. Individuals like me, sometimes it doesn't hurt to even just pick up the phone, pat in the back, how you doing? But you have to find the resources for them. Because if they have these issues as young kids and as children, then they're going to have these issues as adults. And it is up to us to deal with them with the best way we know how. So thank you for asking the question. Hopefully I answered it.
Yeah, thank you for answering it.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Mr. DeFoor. So my question is, what will you do to ensure that Pennsylvania schools are fairly funded, in a sense that Philly students can get an education equal to students living in wealthier suburbs?
Change the formula in which we fund schools. And that is what, and I talked about the lawsuit a few minutes ago, and that is one of the reasons why the lawsuit was filed. Because the way that we fund schools, it's an old way of funding schools, and it just doesn't work. As far as the funding disparities of schools in Pennsylvania, we're one of the worst in the country. So we have to change it. So we have to change that formula and how we fund our schools. That's the first thing. And once that is changed, I believe you will start to see some of the poorer schools and some of the city schools being funded a lot better than what they're being funded today. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Is it Harry?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Harry.
Victor, you there? You got another question, Victor.
Okay, so hey again, Mr. DeFoor.
Hey, Victor, how are you?
I'm doing good. My last question is, what is a fun fact about you?
What is a fun fact of? There's a couple of them. There's three. One, I probably love amusement parks more than the average 10-year-old. I love roller coasters. And as you can see behind me, there's a bass guitar. I play the bass. I'm not very good. Don't ask me to play, because I don't want to scare you off. And another fun fact, who was the the student that had the Sith Lord? Who was that?
That was me.
That was you?
That was me.
So,
Yep.
good question. Do you know what this is?
I believe that's Darth Vader's lightsaber.
Very good. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So yeah, so I'm actually a big kid. I never grew up, and I hope I never grow up. So those are pretty much 3 fun facts about me. I played a bass guitar, not good. Love roller coasters, and I love Star Wars. Always have. And I remember going to the theater way before all of you were born, watching the original. But so thank you. Good question.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. DeFoor. My name is Shayla, and I'm a member.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a member of my school's voter registration team. And to bring it back to a more serious note, you talked about the lawsuit and talked about changing the formula for fairly funding students in school.
Yeah.
So on the note of talking about young people, why is it important for us to vote?
Because you have a voice. You have a voice, and your voice is voting. And don't ever forget that. Right now decisions are being made that may affect you for the rest of your life. And study up on who you're voting for, or study up on who's running for office, and what their positions are. I mean, you could either, for those of you who are eligible to vote in November, you could vote for me, you can vote for someone who's running against me. But understand who you're voting for and vote. That's your voice. As far as for me, people had to die for the right for me to vote. And that's something I never forgot. And I think in recent history, I've only not voted in one primary election, and that was because the day before the election, I was called away on business. But that's your voice. That's your voice is voting. And your voice as youth, you need to be heard. And that's why you should vote in every single election going forward. And yeah, that's why. Hopefully answer your question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. DeFoor.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. DeFoor. Really appreciate you coming in and talking to students in Philly Public Schools. They need to hear from you all. So is there anything last words you want to say before we sign off?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you just said. It's kind of broken up.
Oh, I just said,
Hello?
are there any final words you want to say before we sign off?
I'm sorry. You said what did I do? You were kind of broken up there. I'm sorry.
Are there any words you want to say before we sign off?
Just thank you. Thank you. And to your students, stay engaged. Stay engaged. I mean, as I said a little while ago, vote, but also understand who you're voting for, whether it could be Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Understand who you're voting for. One of the most memorable times that I had when I first ran for county controller in 2015, I remember knocking on the door of a registered voter, and person answered the door and just kind of gave me a blank look, and she said to me, and she yelled to somebody in the back room, say, "Mom, that person you're going to vote for is here." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'd like to meet your mom." So I went back into the kitchen. There was her mom. She had the voter's guide spread all over the kitchen table. And she said, "I'm voting for you because I like your background and I like your education. So that's why I'm voting for you." She was an educated voter. So educate yourself on who's voting, on who's running for office. But most importantly, vote. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you again for joining us. Really appreciate it. Good luck in your
Thank
campaign.
you very much.
And we're going to just jump back over to the presentation just to wrap up real quick here. So we just heard from Timothy DeFoor, candidate for Auditor General for the Republican primary. And if you need to register to vote, please make sure you do that. Just a few days left to do that before the deadline for the June 2nd election. The deadline is May 18th, so please make sure you register to vote. And if you are already registered to vote, please apply to vote by mail. In Philadelphia, they're shutting down 77% of our polling places, which means there's going to be long lines at those remaining. There's just a few polling places in each ward. So go to votespa.com and apply to get that mail-in ballot. And if you're interested in helping to register other youth to vote, please join Philly Youth Vote, Vote That John, and When We All Vote. We're all organizing an event this Saturday called the Vote That John House Party with DJ Jazzy Jeff and other entertainment. So please join us. It's going to be a fun time, and we're going to get people registered and those mail-in ballots. So thank you all, and happy voting.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.